Well, welcome everyone to Carving a New Path. My name is Andrea Hyland. I host this show, and I'm also the founder of Heal My Voice and the Incubator, which is an annual online co-working space for women creatives. And I'm an ancestral lineage healing practitioner. So there are a lot of things I'm interested in. And there's a link to my website in the show page, along with all the social media links and website of my guest today. So for anyone who has never been to the show, never listened to the show, I just wanted to give you a little heads up about the intention. This podcast began in March 2020 in response to the rapid change that people were experiencing at that time. And the conversations and guests on this podcast have all listened to their inner voice. They have released things from the past and they've birthed new ways of being in the world. And that continues as we discuss a variety of topics. But it all comes down to ideas that you can use to carve a new path for yourself. So let's dive into my guest and the topic. My guest today is Monisha Mittal, and the topic of this show is Your Body Has a Voice, Tuning into Your Most Powerful Ally. And just think about this as we begin the show. In the midst of these destructive times, it's easy to feel powerless and without resources. What if your body held a deeper intelligence to guide your choices and find your right effort? So Monisha Monisha Mittal is a somatic coach and play architect who helps others access their embodied knowing for greater clarity, presence, and flow. And after 20 years as an organizational consultant, she followed a whisper in her heart, awakening to the wisdom of her body. A certified InterPlay leader and two-time Ivy League graduate, she founded the Center for Somatic Leadership and Communication in 2024, yay, where she offers coaching and classes to help individuals and communities feel more connected, vital, and authentic. She is currently writing about how to listen to your body's voice in her book, You Move for Your Own Joy, The Promise in Your Physicality. So welcome, Monisha.
Thank you, Andrea. I just
Yeah,
wanted to. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I had to do a little bit of a cheer because just having known you for so many years now, I mean, I don't even know how many years. I could do a quick calculation, at least 13 or 14 years. Um, but we too have just watched you grow into this part of yourself and to really officially found the Center for Somatic Leadership and Communication last year, which has already been a part of your life for so long. But I just needed to do a little bit of a cheer there.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, you more than anyone has literally been there side by side, step by step through each of the evolutions and the shifts and the shaping, and watching this birthing, happen into what is Monisha's expression? Where is it headed? And
Yeah.
yeah, and here that is.
And for the listeners, that's what it looks like, that we have people along the way who are there either right beside us or holding space for us, or so that you can grow into this. Carving a new path does not just happen overnight by yourself in a little private space. It is, we need each other, and we need to be witnessed as things are coming through us also. So I'm glad we took a moment to express that because that is important for everyone to know. We all need that.
Yeah, yeah. Carving a new path has, like, let's think of a river as it's all the little turns and the valleys and the dips and the risings. And we do need witnessing and affirming all through that.
Affirming, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. especially as, so much that you've brought forth has been new ideas. And so it is the like, yeah, okay, that lands. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that quote from Ratatouille that I love, the new needs friends. Yeah.
Hmm. I love that. I love that film.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
okay. So to just start this conversation, I'm going to ask you a really basic question that has lots of richness in it. What is it that you discovered about the body?
Yeah. I discovered, well, I'm going to just start with the first thing because there's so many things. But the first thing I really discovered is that this is one of my most intimate life partners.
Mhm.
It knows every valley and crevice of where I have been, who I've been with, and how I that made me feel. Um, it is it's my guide, but your body is a guide. My body is a guide. I discovered that it's constantly communicating with me, nudging me to choose to make choices that are for my highest, for my best. And I learned that it has many different languages that it talks with. I learned that it is probably my most intimate witness of my life experience. I learned that it holds my experiences and it has this remarkable quality of being able to give me my life experiences without judgment. So it really offers this place of compassion and non-judgment for me to actually have my human experience. And I've really found that there's this safety, that there's this deep, like deep assurance in my body that I can trust. And so I started to find a place to trust the experience that I was having because the experiences we're having are not always pleasant or comfortable.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean there's many nuances of all of that. Um, but our yeah, our bodies are here as a resource and they're just so linked to showing us who we really are and how to become who we're meant to be, who we came here to be. And they have all of that information. Our bodies have this information because they're linked to our DNA, they're linked to our um, lived experience, and they're linked to our hearts, where our dreams and desires and other and loves live. Um, and and I guess just to take it one layer above, I learned my body houses my being, my life force. So it's working on my behalf at this whole other level. And the way that it's giving me information is literally about harmony. Like, how can I be the most of me in harmony with the people, places, and activities that are in my surroundings. So I find it to be a real partner for my development and my evolution.
Well, and yeah, I want to say yes, yes, yes to everything that you're saying. There was something we had talked about before, and you had even sent me this sentence. Many of us are taught to override or ignore what our body is telling us as we get busy tackling life. And I feel like that just, when I read that sentence, I really was thinking about how much I was taught as a child. What was reinforced for me was being a people pleaser and being a good girl. I even found this letter that my dad had written to my uncle when I was like 3 years old and we were on a road trip. And I said something like there was an animal in the road at a national park and we were stopped there. And I said something to my dad about it. And I said, but I would never do that, Dad, because I am a good girl. And he wrote that in the letter. So it was like clear that that was celebrated, that was expected. And what that did was it taught me to override or ignore what my body was telling me. So if I was taught to go up and hug a stranger that worked with my dad or something, and my body was saying no, I was taught to be a good girl and override that. And I'm sure that everyone listening has some experience where you did not listen to what your body was saying. And I have examples in adulthood which really were the wake-up calls for me. And so, it starts at that young age. And yeah, I just want to turn it back to you to just talk about whatever that brings up for you. I mean, we could go into why we should listen or yeah. So
It really does bring up something very valuable for me. I was going to say that, like, I have, you know, in preparing for this podcast, I was just thinking, okay, oh, what was it that made me kind of dive in and leave this whole other way of being, which was a totally great structure, 9 to 5, colleagues, personal time, work time, weekend time, all that kind of stuff. Um, and the one thing that I want to share, so I was thinking that, oh, there was 3 phases to this, but the thing that really came up to me is what I learned for me when you were talking is what I learned in the third phase, which is there is so much unlearning from a performative way of being. So we're performing ourselves rather than being ourselves.
yes, yes.
And the whole promise of what the body can show you is who you really are and what is authentic to you. And, like all of us right there, like that is so radical. Like right now in our reality, it is so radical. It is so radical to be a human in a body. It is so radical to have your own thoughts. It's so radical to have your own needs that you need, healthy food, clean water, clean air, you know it's so then we have to learn how to come into a relationship and make agreements with all these other human beings running around who have the same needs, and my big reveal here is when we my big reveal in my third phase of like in the last several years, right before I founded the center, is there is this experience where you climb into your bodies, like the active embodiment is climbing into your body because you're more attuned to your real vibration, to your authentic wiring. And then it's safe for the you that hangs out here to literally climb down into your body. And so when we can do that, there is so much more safety in embodied speech, in embodied listening. Your body is always giving you nudges, not just in terms of the direction of your effort, right? What direction should your energy go in? But it's also letting you know how much energy. It's also letting you know when. So as a person who has really shepherded and held safe space for people's voices is one aspect of an action we can choose, and it's a really important one in these current times. But imagine sinking into the safety of your being through your body, having a felt, not an intellectual, but a felt sense experience of feeling assured in who you are and knowing that there's a beginning and an end to you, and there's a beginning and an end to somebody else, and they can have their experience and you can have your experience,
Mhm.
and that can all be safe, and you can still discern what is right to say, what your need is, how to ask for it. There are so many ways to communicate that make it safe for us and make it safe for the other person. There's so much we can have of our experience without needing to ruffle other people's feathers. And we were never taught that. We were never taught that we can be at the center of our experience and we have control over all of this space all the way up to our edges.
Mhm.
So you're climbing into your body. That's ultimately that's why I call it the center. The center. I want people to climb into their vital centers, and I want to do it so that people can step into this place of vital, authentic exchange, with other humans in a body on the planet.
Yeah. Wow. I I like have been taking notes because I'm thinking, well, what do I want to circle back to? Because there's so much that you're sharing that is just so powerful. Something before we kind of talk about how do we listen or the movement piece, I just want to circle back to something that you were talking about our body's link to our DNA, our lived experiences, our dreams, that it is our life force. And to understand that, I want to highlight that piece that you were talking about, the unlearning and what that process is and how like it feels like something so important to understand. We're carrying the I know you and I have done a lot with ancestral work, but it's like we're carrying our culture, we're carrying the group think, we're carrying what our ancestors needed to do or be in the world to be safe. And even I referenced my father and him writing about the good girl or whatever, and that's not to make my father wrong. It's like that's what he was being taught. Oh, I need my daughter to be a good girl in order to
Right,
be safe, in order to function in this world. It
right,
wasn't a thought of like, how do I help her come into her voice more? It was how do I keep her safe? So these things that have been so ingrained and so anchored in to our bodies. I just would love to have you talk a little bit more about this unlearning or the
yeah,
yeah, how we're
yeah,
functioning with this. So I'll turn it over
sure.
to you. Yeah,
Okay, so I'm going to share a few things, and you just let me know when we need an example or something like
sure.
that. Okay, so one thing that's really cool in all of this is, you talked about externally being shaped, right? So we're all shaped by what we were taught, by our life experiences, by some very unsafe places in our life, and for many of us, parents doing their darndest to keep us protected, but really not knowing how to let us be ourselves and grow as ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, so what's coming up for me to say here is I'd like to draw out the fact that there's actually two ways our systems work. Okay. There's two ways that our bodies respond. Okay. So one is there is literally a mind to body connection. And so what is amazing to me is discovering that there's a body to mind connection. And I want to take just a quick side minute to clarify something about my bio. I am so sorry. That was a copy, paste, and chat GPT error. But my intention in bringing up being a two-time Ivy League graduate is simply that I actually learned that my greatest intelligence lay in my body and not in my mind.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
here's what happens when people step into my classes. I have had many repeated occurrences where people say, I've been in pain for blah, blah, blah days and weeks or post-op, and I didn't feel any pain moving in your class,
Hmm.
right? So there's a lot of layers here, and believe me, there is a research also being done, um, uh, neuro um, neuropsychological research being done. Um, so here's what I'm finding. Okay, one is your body is animated by your life force frequency and vibration, right? It's also tapped into this heart portal, so it's tapping into a whole other kind of collective, uh, universal kind of love juice, kind of there. Um, you're going through your life, your body is witnessing your life experience, and it is storing it, and it's storing with, again, where you've been and how you felt, but it's doing this with the no judgment. So unlike the mind, that its job, perceive a threat, don't let that happen again, protect yourself. Your mind is always trying to get you out of a pickle. Like if it perceives a threat, it literally gives you the opposite information, thinking that's the way to get out of the threat, like you feel like a failure. Oh, you need to feel like a success, and that's kind of where the mind kind of runs amok. The mind is kind of um it's so doing the best it can, but it's kind of like a really powerful machine that needs to be rooted in a deeper grounding and a deeper no. And so that's what the body. So what is cool with the body is the information you need. So I found this with movement, right? It was one of my happiest discoveries as a non-dancer, to discover that movement is a language, and dancers know this, performance-based artists know this, and so movement stirs up this information that's in your body, and it rises to your awareness. And the wisdom of your body, in part, is that it's sending you the information that you need exactly at the right time. What that means is, what are you ready to hear? How can you receive this information? This information comes up, it can come up as a sense, like we all know physical senses, physiology, but it can come up as a feeling. It can remind you of, oh, that time I went on this, you know, I felt this way in that situation, and it's bringing this feeling up for you to notice. It's bringing up an image. I have this cute little story. It's so simple. One morning, I decided to step outside the front of my house to turn right to go for my walk instead of left. I always chose left. This time I chose right. It didn't take more than a block. And all of a sudden, I was seeing this former neighbor of mine who had turned into a dear friend. I was seeing her face and I was feeling her presence. And my body was reminding me, hey, you only went in this direction when you went on walks with her.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. And so while your mind is very threat based, what's beautiful about the way the body gives information is that it is really doing it from this center of compassionate non-judgment. It's literally linked to this life force inside you. So you can have a felt sense of safety. You can have a felt sense of compassion and love and joy and all of these natural things that actually live inside your skin, that you don't need an external experience to get, right? So the thing with the body to mind is it's always going to be authentic to the experience, to your experience, to the physical experience that you're having. And in our interplay system, we've realized that actually all information is physical. You cannot have a feeling without a body. You cannot have a thought without a body. And all of this energy itself is physical. Even if it's invisible, it's physical.
Mhm.
So, so let's see. So how did that land for you with your question? But I just did want to very much the mind to body thing is the habitual. Um, the body to mind thing is a brain bypass. You bypass all of those limiting beliefs. You bypass the learning. And in fact, you and I know there's from the mind to body way, we know there's a growing amount of research, and we know people like Louise Hayes. We know that a lot of manifestation of diseases in the body are because of various stories that our synaptic brain has developed. So your body's like, okay, you're telling me all the time I'm a loser.
Yeah.
Okay, you're telling me all the time that um that's not safe for you, or there's not confidence for you, like. And so what happens is you keep your own self down because you're dumbing down that vibration and that vitality of your life force, and your body is simply trying to always give you information about where that life force wants to go, or what's really in your highest for your life force. Like, it's just trying to remind you that you are a life force and you can choose, you can make your choice. That's all the body's trying to do. It's To me, it's always been telling me what's my real job under the surface.
Yeah. I want to jump in with something here also to just confirm, affirm what you were just saying, because I have this thought that came up from when I was just in one of your movement classes. So I feel like that a lot of times when I've heard people talk about body messages, they're talking about keeping us like safe or something, or saying no when, instead of a yes. But something that happened when I was in one of your movement classes, it was just to let the listeners know, it was the end of the day. I really honestly went because I wanted to support Monisha. And I felt like, oh, I've had such a long day. I'm tired. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to go. I said I was going to go. So I go to the class. And right away, I just start, my body gets so much energy. Like I'm just feeling a buzzing from the connection with everyone. And there was some point during the hour, hour and 15 minutes we were together where all of a sudden I felt like the body said to me, the words that came were, I touched so many people today. And it like expanded my heart. And for a moment, my mind actually went through the the coaching calls, the ancestral, the meeting I was in. Like my mind went through the data, right? Like the da 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 da. Here's who you talked with today. And then so I'm sitting with this like, you touched so many people. I touched so many people today. And then I felt, and they touched me. And it was like, it just landed in this way that I felt like my body in that moment was being a cheerleader for me. My body wasn't saying, danger, danger, or sensations or but whatever. It was just like giving me this gift of a reflection of the day that was so beautiful, and it was so heart connected for me that even with you talking about this now, because your movement class was a couple of weeks ago, I think, um, it just really stayed with me with that. So I'm wondering, with the time that we have left today, if we could pivot to just having you share a little bit about how we listen or how movement unlocks insights, guides us in making life choices.
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling. So you go ahead if you feel like going in another direction, but that's
No,
what I
I,
was.
I just, I love what you shared about being in the class on Valentine's Day. What I just want to pick up on there is, okay, so first, that experience, you had two different levels of experiences. So one, at your physical level, you arrived tired, and very quickly, you were buzzing with energy.
Yeah.
Okay. For anybody who thinks that what we do has anything to do with exercise, Please know that the whole genius of the interplay system is it's improvisational, so that you are choosing your own movement. And the way that I know I know what's happening when I am doing my teaching. I know what I'm doing is reconnecting people to what one of the co-founders of Interplay, Cynthia Winton Henry, says is below the neck. So I am very consciously um, connecting people to down here, and very deliberately not going in a cognitive space. And what happens right away is people feel an ease. But what's really happening is that you're actually aligning with the truth of who you are, like in the central channel. Your mind is now following, the truth of what is alive for your body. And it's knowing, it's what's beautiful about movement as a language is that so your other thing was you had an awareness rise up. So during whatever we did, our playful wise movement, what happened is you had information stir up and it rose to your awareness. So again, you notice the brain bypass. But what's beautiful is your body gave you a direct response to what you were bringing to class, which is, I'm tired. I had a long day. And your
Right.
body was like, that's not the truth of your day. The truth of your day is you touched many people and they touched you back. And now all of a sudden, you're having an experience that energetically you can feel is expanding you and expanding your energy and expanding your light. And that's who you came here to be.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And it
Yeah.
bypassed the ego of even thinking, oh, look at how great I am that I touched so many people today. It showed me actually the whole process of, yes, I touched so
Yeah.
many people today. And yes, I was touched by the people who, so it was
Yeah.
like this reciprocal thing also.
Well, I can share during so how I jumped into all of this, there was that pre-phase where there were enough little not like I would have these different experiences and I was like, wait a minute, there's something going on deeper down here. There's some kind of deeper sentience and I don't know what it is. So then when it came time for me to leave my full-time job, I did it kind of went into part-time, but as a sabbatical, I was in this period of uncertainty and a
Mhm.
lot of anxiety because I was in this place of not knowing. And this is when I really started to turn to my body. Um, and so what happened is that my body was showing me what was actually what what was what was really happening in my experience, right? So, for example, it showed me I was actually grieving, the loss of my professional identity, though my mind was panicking about building my next one, right? It was showing me that I could trust what I was learning and knowing. These tiny little steps I was taking towards whatever my body was trying to show me. I could even teach what I knew. My body was showing me it was okay to be with the small, you
Mhm.
know, even though, I was coming off a 20-25 year career where you're kind of established, and the mind was like, well, if I go to another career, I have to start at the bottom, like all those conventional things, right? But here it was showing me it's okay. It's okay to be small. It's okay to be exactly where you are. And it was also showing me very clearly some of my unlearning from these masculine dominant behaviors and wiring um, to more feminine way of being, which is more innate to me. So it was always showing me, my real job, and it was showing me the actual experience I was having without judgment And then it was showing me the way forward, being like being authentically me. Like that's a really rare space for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really rare space to be able to be myself. So, um, that is one thing I'd like to example I like to give about movement as a language, that it's during that period of uncertainty, it really showed me a way forward, like by trusting myself and trusting the experiences I was having. That was a huge gift. Yeah.
And would you say that using the words trusting yourself was a way that you began to listen? So it's like building like if we think about how do we listen, it's to begin those practices
Well,
of, yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
No, of just the thing that just comes up for me is well, and even the example that I used about I touched so many people today, like I could have just ignored that or not really, like I paused, felt it, listened to it. And so as you were just sharing about, being in that place of uncertainty as the old was being released and in the uncertainty, sometimes we do scramble to try to be like, well, that's ending. Let me find something else that's just like this. But you were beginning to build a level of trust in your body by listening to what the body messages were.
Yeah, I mean, trust is a weird word. It was, it is, I use the word trust, but there's so many layers to that. And, the first was, like I said, this place of assurance. There's this just center feeling of, I've got you, I know, anyone else could have been like, calm down, or, this anxiety, oh my gosh, like they would have been practical about it, or they would have, told me to see a therapist, or, whatever. But my body was like, of course you're reacting like this,
Huh.
you know. Um, of course. I mean, I know exactly where you've been. I know exactly the limiting beliefs that you have. And I know more than that, I know what you want for yourself.
Yes.
I think that's the most beautiful embrace. Going, I'll go back to your question, but I do just want to emphasize how your body also knows in your lineage, what your purpose is, what you're here to transform on behalf of your lineage. It's like so effing powerful. Um, so the
Well, and let
tools,
me just
yeah,
highlight what you just said was actually what it looks like to have a powerful ally.
yeah,
That what you were experiencing, that the body even saying to you, of course you're anxious. Of course you're unsure about what's next. It's like that's actually what an ally looks like. So for anyone who doesn't know that or forgets that, let us help you remember that is what an ally looks like. The ally
right,
is not like, why are you still laying in bed right now? You should be up. Blah, 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 blah.
yeah,
No, the ally is actually like, of course you want to lay in bed a little bit longer this morning. This is a
yeah.
lot that you're going through.
This is a lot. And there's a part of you that is in sadness. And there's a part of you that is, has no way to know anything. And there's a part of you, and there's so many things your brain can't articulate for you, but your body's holding all of those pieces, and it's holding them in the exact texture, the exact vibrational texture with which you're having it, you
Yeah.
know? And so that's why I say, come into these languages, because why not know all these different ways to learn yourself and how to move through what you need through and be more of you by the time you're ending it, so the body has multiple languages. But I want to get back to the gift of your question, because I would say two things. What are the tools, or how do we do this? Well, there's basically a flow, but the very first tool is notice. Just notice the experience you're having. Just notice right now. You can notice what you're feeling on your skin. You can notice the amount of light and the various colors that are around you and the various shapes that are in your realm of seeing. You can tune into what you're hearing. You can tune into the taste in your mouth.
Mhm. Yeah.
Notice I've only taken you through 4 senses, but the body can do all of them all at the same time. The mind could really only focus on 1 or 2 at the most at a time. It would have to go from one and then to the other.
Hmm.
So, what you do is that the more you notice the experience you're having, and it's not just an external experience, you're noticing what we call your body data, which is this little pieces of information your body's constantly sending you. And they take the form of so many different energetic qualities. Because you can feel light and dark. You can feel weight. You can feel like pressure versus lightness. There's so many different ways your body is giving you energetic information. What happens when you develop a practice of noticing is you start following your inner barometer. You start trusting your inner compass instead of the noise out there. Okay. I had an experience of this just with something as simple as my weight. I joined, it was a period of my time I was pretty self conscious because I had gone through a significant weight gain. And I jumped into a cleanse and anti inflammatory diet with someone we both know, Cassandra Herbert.
Yeah.
And my body began responding pretty quickly. And before this, I was weighing myself every day. I was going on serial fat diets and I was following all of the research. Well, now I saw my body was giving me a bunch of different signals that were way more valuable than the weight. It, the coating on my tongue would let me know, do I need to decrease the amount of sugar? The puffiness on my belly would let me know, okay, it's time to add more greens, maybe more water. That there were so many different signs that I just stopped weighing myself and I started to just check in with different parts of my body to get like a scan for the day, to inform my choices.
Yeah.
And so what happened is I stopped listening to the noise out there and started to follow what my body was telling me were better choices for me. Now think of the empowerment that comes.
Yeah.
Think of the equality that comes, because every human has a body. And I know that there's a lot of variety of bodies out there. And even if you're in a coma, you're in a body. And even if you're in a wheelchair and can only move one finger, you know, the movement that you have in this one finger, the freedom of choice that you have if you do one of our interplay hand dances, that movement is connected to every other part of your body. I mean, your hip is slightly moving on the inside, even if you can't feel it anymore.
Yeah.
So, what happens is you start stepping into your inner authority or internal authority. And then what happens is you just start stepping into your embodied presence. You start being in the center of your body and of your life. And it's just happening. It's like you start operating on your gut instinct.
Hmm.
So I would say those are kind of the three big phases of what happens if you just allow yourself the space to practice.
Yeah, I love that. And something I want to say to everyone is that when I was in Monisha's class the other day, on Valentine's Day, um, most of the time I was sitting. So even when we talk about movement, it's like the messages from the body were coming through in a sitting position. And at one point I stood up and did a few things, but most of it was sitting. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Your
just
body loves to move. Your body loves to move, and it doesn't have to be very much.
Yeah, no, it can be,
Yeah. And what's really beautiful about movement as a language, I'll just bring this point up, is that what's really beautiful when you learn how to listen to movement as a language is your body is showing you your move in the world. So it's showing you the pace that is aligned for you for your whole energy system. It's showing you how far to take the step. It's showing you the rhythm and pace of your steps. It's showing you the level of strength to take in that step. Like, think about that. That's so much information,
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
happens in an instant. It happens so much quicker than your brain could even figure that out. So that's why I call this accelerated insights, because it doesn't take very long to hear the story that your body wants to share with you. Yeah.
Mhm. I love that. All right, I could just talk with you forever about this, and there's so much coming up, but I look forward to when your book is out, and I know you're in process with that, and it'll be ready when it's ready. But until then, why don't you share some ways that people could work with you? And just to let everyone know, all of this information is in the show page, so you can go there, click on things, go check out Monisha's website and see that. But uh, just what would you like to highlight today?
Yeah. Well, first, I want to thank you. This has just been a
Oh,
pleasure and an honor. It's been a lot of fun to be here. Um, I would want to just let people know, when I entered this work, I was full of anxiety and second guessing myself, and really didn't trust myself at all. And I want to say the opposite of what I found is ease. And
mm,
that is kind of ease and joy are kind of the reasons I'm standing where I'm standing. So there's a few ways you can work with me right now. One is I'm going to be offering a drop-in series so people can experience this unique tool set. I call it somatic play or embodied play. Somatic means of the body. And it all comes, I use the interplay system of forms so that you can connect with your own body's guidance and your inner compass. So these drop-in series are going to be Tuesday nights, March 18th, 25th, and April 1st. So you can drop into one or you can drop into more. And Andrea's got the link on her site, on her page. Um, I also do these one-on-ones that I absolutely adore to bring people into their body knowing, their embodied knowing. It's a beautiful way to deep dive. You can do anything from um, working with a fear you have, working with a limiting belief you have. You can get in touch with breaking through the next limit of your growth. Um, if you feel anxious or stuck or even depressed, I mean, there's many different ways to allow yourself to have the resource of your body wisdom, of your somatic intelligence to show you your way forward. And you can find about those on the website as well. Those are under one-on-one services. And then in the future, I do plan on offering some group, like a group support, so that it's in between what you can learn in a class versus a deep dive. So a little bit deeper than one and less deep than the other. So that'll be forthcoming.
thank you. So, just so check that out. And anything else that you want to share before we hop off?
I do put on meditations and activations on my podcast. And so that information is there as well. It's a free resource that people seem to really um, lean on in these current times.
Yes, and I think that we also have, I mean, I know there's a number of links, but I'm pretty sure that the Substack is
Yep.
there
Yeah.
also.
Yeah. That's
Subscribe.
where you subscribe for both the podcast and my weekly love letters.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So good. I think we have that covered.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, anything else that you want to leave people with? that's just kind of bubbling up for you?
Yeah, just courage. Please sink into your courage. All of this is happening for us. It's happening to break up the dark and really help us learn how to engage and be with each other. There is so much more strength in the collective power of us than all of the unfortunate imagined concentrated power that these people are trying to convince us is the only one that exists. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Monisha, thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
being
Andrea.
here, for the conversation, and for the work that you're doing in the world. Yeah. And thank you to the listeners, and I'll see you another time. Bye bye now.